So the poem today is I Met a Thief. I Met a Thief by A.S. Bukenya. This is a Ugandan. One of those poems that I read during my secondary school life. I loved poems and poetry. On the beach, on the coast, under the idle whispering coconut towers, before the growling, foaming waves, I met a thief who guessed I had an innocent heart for her to steal. She took my hand and led me under the intimate cashew boughs which shaded the downy grass and peeping weeds. She jumped and plucked the nuts for me to suck. She sang and laughed and pressed close. I gazed. Her hair was like the wool of a mountain sheep. Her eyes, a pair of brown black beans floating in milk, juicy and round as plantain shoots. Her legs, her arms, her neck. And like one guard, her pillowy breasts, her throat uttered fresh banana juice, matching her face, smooth and banana ripe. I touched, but long before I even tasted, my heart had flown from me into her breast. And then she went high and south and left my carcass roasting in the fire she'd lit. Thank you. Uh, so, Noel, sorry. So, Noel, who is supposed to introduce the guest?
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope everyone is doing fine.
Where are you? We can't see you.
Do not ask where I am. Today I'm introducing the guest, but I'm introducing the guest without my face.
Umenyeshewa?
Kindly, just allow me.
Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, so our guest of the day is Dr. Kamau Waruri. He is an academic researcher, educator, and public affairs consultant with an expertise in security and justice, criminal justice system, human rights, youth empowerment, and gender in Africa. Presently, he is a lecturer in criminology at Edinburgh, Napier University, UK, and a research fellow at the Institute of Public Policy and Governance, IPPG, at the Strathmore University. Kamau is an experienced academic researcher whose work has been published in respected academic journals and books. He has also presented his research work in various conferences in Nairobi, Kenya, Johannesburg, South Africa, Paris, France, Edinburgh, and Cambridge, UK. Kamau is an experienced educator in the higher education sector, having delivered lectures and classroom teaching at Edinburgh Napier University, the University of Edinburgh, and Strathmore University. He is recognized as a fellow of the Higher Education Academy UK. As a public affairs consultant, Kamau has extensive experience advising leaders and organizations in the public, private, and development sectors on matters relating to politics, public policy, and governments. Thank you so much. Karibu sana Daktari Kamau Waruri.
Thank you so much, Noel. Bonachair, I presume this is the chance for me to start?
Yes. Thank you. That's a very elaborate bio, yeah? At least I'm glad it ended with something to do with the University of Nairobi.
Let me just get my slides up. I hope you can see the slides.
Yes, we can.
Good. All right, so good morning, everyone. Power Monday. I have to start by commending you all for being early risers. This is not one of my strengths, I think I spent too many days and years of my life waking up early to catch up on education. And then now I tend to stay up a bit late and get up a bit later, but you guys are an impressive lot to be doing this every Monday, which also means possibly you don't suffer Monday blues like the rest of us. That's something to be commended on. Also, it's an incredible initiative to have done for a whole 4 years. Starting things is not hard, but keeping things going and being consistent requires a lot of determination. And I'm glad that you guys have been able to do this. So I'm going to give a quick talk. The background to this is sometime earlier in the year, I was invited by Rotary Club of Nairobi Thika Road to talk to them about becoming lifelong learners. And I understand that their former president, Martin, was one of the guest speakers in an earlier session with you guys. And he recommended me to come and speak. So I thought I am not going to make much of a change in the talk. I will deliver the talk as I had delivered it then, because this is also for a different audience. And I hope that you find it useful. I'm happy to take any questions at the end. There's quite a lot to go through. I will try to go at a moderate pace, not too fast, so that we are going together, and also hopefully trying to keep time as well. I wonder if I will get a signal about time as we go. Maybe when I have 10 minutes to go or 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, at what point do you, because there could be questions, like we said, we can go up to around 8. If I do a chat, would you see?
I don't know, but I can see you on my screen, so you can wave and say maybe say 15, and then so that we allow time for questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks. So the talk today is about becoming lifelong learners, and on we go. So I think it's quite clear to us now that the people who are going to thrive in this century are going to be those who embrace lifelong learning and continually increase their knowledge, skills, and competencies. So we are living in a world where things are changing on a regular, every day. You wake up and discover new inventions. Just now, I have seen an AI starting in this meeting, which means artificial intelligence is picking up on the things we are talking about and synthesizing that information. So for you to be able to survive in the present day world, you must be able to unlearn a lot of things that we have learned and then keep learning new things, because the world is moving at a very fast pace and we have to be able to keep up with it. So my conversation today is going to be about how do we become lifelong learners so that we are constantly increasing our knowledge, our skills, our competencies in order to not just survive, but to thrive in this 21st century. And so lifelong learning itself is the art of pursuing knowledge and mastering skills throughout life. It means that we don't see education as just being about a certain period of time in our lives, but actually going beyond the formal education that we take up to when we go to the university level, for those of us who manage to do that, or tertiary level or secondary level. But it's about being able to pursue that and continuing to master skills throughout life. It's a big challenge to not see education as a life stage, something that you do up to a certain age and then stop, but actually something that you need to be doing on a continuous basis. And so lifelong learners, which I hope that many of us in the room are the people who believe that learning is a crucial part of their lives and experiences, and they will seek out ways to continue learning. And I define myself as one of those people. My life has been one of constant learning and always looking for new skills, new challenges to pursue, and trying to become better and better every day. So we are now in December, finally, and there's a lot of excitement about the celebrations. But then soon enough, it's going to be a period of reflection on what we have achieved this last year. Of course, as always, some of us will have done better than others. We may have done more than we thought we could do. We may have done less than what we thought we could do. But what is clear is that in a relatively short period of time as well, we'll be going back to thinking about the plans for the next year, like usually what we call the New Year resolution. And a while ago, maybe 4 or 5 years now, as I was reading an article in the Harvard Business Review, I came across an article where the author was saying, on top of doing resolutions, or maybe instead of doing resolutions for the new year, we could think more about doing career planning. Like, what am I planning for my career for the next year? And she recommended a 3-prong approach or framework to think about how to plan for your career for the year. And essentially, she was asking, she challenged us to ask the question, what am I going to learn in the next year? Who am I going to connect with? And what am I going to create in the next year? So that's a framework for career planning. And as I reflected on it, I thought this is a good framework that we can use also to think about lifelong learning. Like, if you are planning your learning goals for the year, what would those be? And what is the best framework you could use? And I think this is a suitable and appropriate one. So I'm going to be using it to talk about lifelong learning this morning. So let's start with learning, right? I know that some of you, or at least most of you, may have seen this this image that I'm showing here, which shows the kind of different orientations, 2 orientations, one which is a fixed mindset and the other one which is the growth mindset. It looks, I'm sure that it has been on quite a number of social media posts on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and everywhere, because it's something that has gained currency in the last few years. But as I was starting my journey of being a lifelong learner, I came across this and it challenged me a lot, because especially for those of us who went through 844 system, there's a point where it seemed like the people who were smart were just smart, and then there were people who were not smart, even though the system itself was created in a way that it favored certain people over others. Which I know is part of the reason why there's a lot of the promotion of CBC. I don't want to get into that because that's a long story and a story for another day. But essentially, there is the idea that that system was favoring some people over others. And so we got into this sense that the ability to learn, or how smart you are, or how intelligent you are, is something that is predetermined, something that you're born with, right? But then the reality of the world is that, and you see this as people finish high school and start going into different avenues of life, people who may not have done so well in school in the 844 system might end up doing very well in life in their chosen career paths in the areas that they have chosen to go to in life. Because when you look at the opposite, the growth mindset, it's a mindset that says there's a lot of things to be learned. The potential to learn is unlimited, and people who are willing to embrace challenges, to change, and to listen to critique are able to actually continue growing and tend to do much better in life in the long run, right? So people who have a growth mindset will be people who will view challenges as opportunities. They will take constructive feedback. They will learn and grow from their failures, and they will believe that the point of talent is to keep improving, not that I have the talent and therefore I'm endowed with something that people don't have, and so I don't need to keep working hard at it, right? On the other hand, people who have a mixed mindset will be those who, will believe that talent is static. They will not want to take challenges. They will not be willing to put themselves out there to see what they can achieve if they push the boundaries or push their limits, right? So as a starting point, it is important to recognize in yourself whether you have, or holding that fixed mindset, or you're holding the growth mindset. But also not to think about this as being mutually exclusive or being applying to your life in general terms, but also the fact that in certain areas of your life, you may be displaying characters of a fixed mindset, while in other areas you are displaying characteristics of being in a growth mindset. And the question is to ask yourself why it is possible for you to do this in some areas and not in others. So in terms of taking on a growth mindset, it is important for you to set out your goals. What do you want to learn? And then, and also how you want to learn. And then on the other hand, is believing and understanding that the idea that intelligence is inborn is something that has been disproved quite a lot by research. Of course, this is not to say that some people are not born with a natural talent for learning things or absorbing certain kind of information or retaining. That is true, but also the thing that matters in the long run is not about having inborn intelligence, but rather the effort that we put towards life. So effort and practice is what creates expertise, not necessarily intelligence. There's a lot of people who have powerful brains, who are smart, who passed very well in school, but you find that in other arenas of life, they're not doing very well because they have not put in the effort and practice that is required. Of course, we need to be reminded that the brain is a muscle like any other. You need to exercise it. It gets stronger with use. And of course, if we don't use it, it will it will waste away, which is something we know of other muscles in our body as well. So it is important for you to shift to a growth mindset if you're going to be a lifelong learner. And you need to, as I've said, self-reflect and think about in what areas of my life do I display a fixed mindset? Where do I display a growth mindset? Do I generally have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? And why is this the case? Is it because I was punished and constrained as I was growing up and constrained in the things that I could think about or the areas of life that I could extend to? Ask yourself why and look for the reasons behind, and then start that process of addressing those issues. But then know and believe that you can change. Know where this is happening, why it is happening, catch it in the moment when you're learning something or when you're doing something or when you're being invited to take part in a challenging thing. If you are resisting, understand why you're resisting and then start questioning and challenging yourself, and then try and refocus back to a growth mindset. So the key thing here is understand what is it that makes you either generally or in the certain areas of life to have a fixed mindset. What is this that you're afraid of? And then how is it that you can go out of that kind of mindset in order to be able to refocus on a growth mindset? Sometimes what it takes is to start small, willingness to start small with small challenges, and then take it from there. Now, of course, you also have to, as I've said, be willing to change with the times. The world is changing a lot. What you see on that image there is essentially we have one phone, which has replaced so many things that used to be independent instruments before. We had the computer, we had a watch, we had a camera, we had newspapers, we had books, we had a telephone, we had a filing cabinet. All that stuff now sits within one gadget, a mobile phone. So you have to be willing to and able to go with the times. Of course, you can see how the social and political landscape is changing. Again, for technology, we can think about social media and the power that it has. Even the fact that we're able to have this talk today, while everyone is everywhere different, and we're able to come together and fellowship together, because of the power of technology, right? The thing about technology as well is that if we're not careful, it is possible that our careers become like a non-stop conveyor belt. You're literally being pushed and pulled from one thing to the next. And that means you may not have the opportunity to reflect on what you're actually doing in your life and then make very deliberate actions in order to progress. But again, at the same time, while not allowing ourselves to become slaves to technology, we must also be able to retool ourselves in order to keep moving. Like I mentioned about AI, AI can make life much easier, but AI doesn't solve all the problems. So you have to also learn, how do I use AI, for instance, in an effective manner, rather than also accepting to be driven by it or falling into the trap of thinking that AI is the thing that's going to solve all the problems that we have in life, at work, and so on. So, as I've said, then lifelong learning is about changing with the times. Push yourselves beyond comfort zones. So learn new things, constantly be looking for opportunities and challenges that help you grow. As Andy Molinsky says there, if you're not outside your comfort zone, then you're not going to learn anything. And then also embrace curiosity. Ask yourself, what is it that I don't know? Why do I not knowing it? How does this thing work? It's a very interesting thing to wake up one morning and just ask yourself the question, if you don't know it already, how does a car engine actually work? Like, you're using a car on a very regular basis, or a vehicle on a very regular basis. Have you sat back to think about, how does this work? Interestingly, I'm not a big fan of cars, but I use this as an example because it's one of the challenges I had set myself once. And I ended up being on YouTube watching a lot of videos and realizing that some of the things I had learned in physics in high school that I thought were perhaps meaningless were the things that engineers were using in the making of cars. So that actually does matter in my life, and it was interesting. Please don't ask me questions about that. I don't remember anymore, but at least I learned some few interesting things in that process. But also that means not just accepting things as they are. Challenge yourself and ask yourself the question of, why is this working this way? Sometimes we take so much for granted, and so we carry assumptions and misinformation about things as we are going through our life because we are not daring enough to ask the question or to challenge the wisdom that we are receiving. And without doing that, we then become like the people we are following, rather than becoming the people of the present day and pushing the boundaries for the future. So, of course, there are three types of learning: formal learning, professional training, and self-directed learning. I'll talk briefly about each of these. Formal learning, structured and assessed learning, you go for certification. You see those images of institutions of higher learning, including, my three alma mater, actually, University of Nairobi, University of Oxford, and Edinburgh. You go there, you go through a structured training, you're taught, you do an exam, you pass, you get certification. So that is an important form of learning. And it doesn't matter at what stage of your life you're at. If there are things that you would want to achieve in terms of formal learning that you feel you haven't achieved yet, work towards gaining that kind of opportunity, and those sessions, those kind of training sessions and programs, and take advantage of those to grow and push your boundaries a bit further. One of the things I've found about being in institutions of higher learning and taking on either a new degree or a new certificate or a diploma is that when you're in an institution of learning, it's possible for you to expand so much into other areas, because you also have access to a lot of resources, and including libraries, for instance. Then there's professional training. This has gained a lot of traction in the last few years, as professional organizations such as ISPAC and the Law Society of Kenya have required this continuous professional development. But before, it used to be something that you had to choose for yourself. We have learning institutions, many companies and schools like the Strathmore Business School, which I work at, where we have short programs. You're taught for 1 week to learn something specific to your profession. Of course, we know that trade and industry associations like KEPSA and others also organize a lot of training sessions that you can take advantage of. When they're available, those are things that you should take into account in planning your learning journey. Then in terms of self-directed learning, you can read books. I keep telling anyone who will listen to me that reading for 15 minutes a day is something that is exceptional. If you're consistent in reading for 15 minutes a day, you are almost instantly above 90% of the rest of the world, because most of the people are not reading, or at least they're not reading in a structured manner. So you can be acquiring a lot more information than most people will take in a year. Then in terms of online learning platforms, I think those ones are quite familiar. There's also LinkedIn Learning as well. Digital media platforms like X, LinkedIn, podcast, and TikTok. And you can see the shameless self-plug there with the Kenyanist, the podcast that I host. If you are following the right kind of people with the right kind of information, you can learn a lot from these social media platforms. Of course, there's a lot of risk in terms of distractions as well. But if you're following the right people, then you can actually acquire a lot of information and knowledge that you would find difficult to access otherwise. So what you need to do in this space is then identify who the subject matter experts are. Don't just go for people who woke up one morning and decided to make themselves experts. Ask yourself whether they have gone through the journey, the process of learning to know things that you don't know, or things that you wouldn't be able to find out so easily, and why it matters, or why you should be listening to them. Then critical thinking, of course, everything you hear, people will have biases and political agendas, whether it is on X, whether it is in books, whether it is in professional courses. Think about what those biases and agendas might be, so that you're able to challenge some of the things that are coming out of the things you're being taught. It's not always the case that you must take everything that's coming your way. You must always challenge yourself to say, okay, of the things I've had today, what are the things that I agree with? What are the ones that I would doubt? What are the things that I will definitely not believe, because of how you understand the positions that people may be coming from? Then learn how to critique ideas. One of the best ways of doing this is going through the formal schoolings that I was talking about earlier, avoiding echo chambers and groupthink. When you're sitting around and talking with people who just think the same way, talk the same things, then you're not really giving yourself the opportunity to grow, because you are just picking information that's coming from, that's being processed and being fed to you, that doesn't require effort, which then doesn't give you the opportunity to learn and grow. Of course, build on your strengths. So I often advise people, start with what you love doing, or something that you have a natural affinity for. Start small. So if you are a reader, start reading. If you want to read more, don't start by reading big books. Start by reading magazines and newspapers, and see how far that pushes you before you can start going into books. If you are more of an interest in listening podcasts and so on, then start with that, and then that can be part of your journey to becoming a lifelong learner. So in terms of action points here, number one, create and execute your learning goals. We've talked about this. Identify where are your gaps at the moment, and then what are those things that I want to do? What is the plan that I'm going to use in order to address this in the next year? What kind of learning or do I want? Do I want to go for formal learning? Am I going to enroll for a master's degree, or for a diploma, or for a certificate? Or do I go for professional learning opportunities? Or am I making a plan for self-directed? The best scenario is usually a combination of several of these, where possible and where available. Then how am I going to measure progress? So do you have accountability partners, people you talk to on a regular basis to say, look, this is where I've got to in this quarter. I feel like I'm lagging behind, or I'm far ahead. I may need to adjust my goals so that I don't burn out. Then, are you journaling? Are you writing a learning log? What are the things I'm learning, and what difference is this making in my life? And then also work with mentors, right? I keep telling people that having good mentors is a life hack. you learn so many things quickly instead of having to discover everything for yourselves. If you have the right mentors, they'll give you a lot of insights and things that you can avoid, mistakes that you can avoid. You go to them for feedback, and then for regular check-ins, that becomes like an accountability mechanism that can be helpful. I realize that time is going really fast, so let me try and move faster. So in terms of connecting, we are social animals. We need to be in communion with other people. This helps us to expand our horizons, shift our lenses, and identify our biases and challenges, and also challenge our assumptions, right? So there are many learning communities now. One of good example, of course, is this Power Monday, Rotary clubs, book clubs. I know of several that have been set up around Nairobi, professional bodies, even cooperatives like circles organize a lot of learning. If you're in a learning community, you get advantage that they can bring speakers, high-profile guests who can talk on diverse topics that you may not usually get access to, and then also participate in learning forums like conferences and seminars that are usually also organized by learning communities. There's also fellowships that get organized by various institutions like universities and NGOs. They get advertised quite a lot on social media. Look out for them. Opportunities for you to go and learn. You meet peers from either your country, your region, around the world, and build international networks. I've had the advantage of being on a Mo Ibrahim Foundation Fellowship and also on the Go Africa, Go Germany Fellowship. And those two like exposed me to a lot of new people and new ways of thinking. So if you have the opportunity to take those, especially if you're still in your younger days, this is something that I could not recommend highly enough. Then in the final prong, in terms of creation, knowledge is something that when we get, we also must give back. We must be paying it forward. So we must also create and disseminate knowledge or create opportunities for people to also access that knowledge, right? So as lifelong learners, we must also share that knowledge that we are getting. It's a good way for you to, number one, measure progress. Sorry. Know whether you are learning well. If you're able to access information, process it, and repackage it and give it to other people, then that shows you that you're actually learning, right? You can do this in multiple formats. Some people write blogs, others will start a podcast, others will set up a book club. It's not a must that you're the one who's creating the knowledge itself, even creating opportunities for people to learn, like this Power Monday is in itself one of those ways of creating something. Then this can help you build a personal brand. Of course, it validates you as a lifelong learner, as a subject matter expert, and also creates further opportunities for you to access learning opportunities. Just to say, before COVID, I couldn't have believed that I can become a podcaster. And I'm so proud that for the Kenyanist, for instance, we now have gone all the way to a third season, which has been quite an interesting learning journey. And I would highly recommend people taking up this kind of challenges and building on something that you never thought you could do. So in terms of a summary, so as I've said, lifelong learning is a survival strategy in the present times. And as I've said, there are three key elements that we need to think about. One is about learning. How do we need to, in this sense, we need to think about shifting to a growth mindset from a fixed mindset. So we need to self-reflect and think about what kind of mindset we carry and with ourselves and that we bring with ourselves and where we can make a change in that sense. Then connecting, joining learning communities. Of course, you guys are quite a good example. The fact that you've been doing this for the last 4 years is is something very impressive. And then share what you've learned, create opportunities for others to learn as well, so that we can actually create a world where we are getting better and better, rather than being stuck in the present day or so much in the past. And that brings me to the end of my talk. Thank you so much. Sorry, I've taken a bit longer than I thought, but I'll be happy to take any questions.
It's quite in order. It's okay. So far, I'm yet to see a question there. Maybe I'll put one. Somebody has said you share a link to the podcast. Maybe just a few comments like I remember I'm one of those people who love learning, and coming up with this concept was quite helpful for me because I always looked for opportunities to learn. That's why I joined Rotary, because I realized that there was always a topic being discussed every other meeting. And so we say we are not very different from you, the people logged in here, people who may not want to wake up early, but it's the thirst of knowledge that keep us awake, that pushes us out of the bed. I remember somebody once said that in a year you realize that a guy has bought 1 ton of bread, yeah, but 0 books, no reading. Most of us seek entertainment. Somebody has watched all sorts of movies, all TikTok and everything, but there is no reading. There is no book that has been read. So I love the way you put it, that it becomes a survival mode. It becomes something that is critical for our survival in this time and age. The other thing is, many of us always expect that life is going to be better by the close of the year. And there is nothing to justify that. I love that you're saying we need to add some critical thinking. You see, enough of us think it's through prayers and wishes. That alone may not work. I love saying that God Himself said, "We perish for lack of knowledge, not lack of prayer." Yeah. So our lives get better when we get better, and that only happens when we keep learning. So that's quite important. Then you've said that we filter. Yes, I would say by the end of the day, whatever you're going to act on, let it be subject of your own evaluation. You've had this, you had this, you had this, and then we need to think about them. Yeah, that's great. Now, maybe on those 3 pillars, 3 sources of learning that are structured, the informal, self-directed, or the professional, is there one that is any bigger or any more important than the other? How do you value that?
So as I've said, I think for me, the thing that works the best is a blend, right? Of course, some of us will get to a point where formal learning becomes almost unnecessary, right? It becomes difficult to go to formal learning again because you've already acquired the highest level you would want to. For some of us, when you get to, undergraduate, that is enough. To postgraduate is enough, so on and so forth. But there's still many things you can do. But for formal learning, I see it as a wonderful way of expanding in a short period of time quite massively, right? But you must do the other things as well. You must be doing self-directed learning as well at the same time. And I think everyone should take on a challenge of at least sign up for one course every year. It doesn't matter whether it's a 2-day course, it's a 1-day workshop, just keep on learning something new. Because even in the way that our jobs are working out, you can't just be one thing, right? As I've said, you're a teacher, but you're also a social media, producer or content producer or something like that. You're seeing teachers on TikTok, for instance, right? So I think it's the blend, and I think the balance is going to work differently for different people. For some, there's also because of access to resources like money, like time, you may want to do formal learning, but you're not able to do it. Then opt for the available, means like self-directed learning. Yeah. I've seen a few comments in the book. Grace, who says that they struggle with routine reading, though the house is full of books. Grace, you know that joke that book buying and book reading are 2 totally different hobbies. An interesting one. And I think the truth of the matter is that my house has way more books than I have read. And I don't see this as a problem. I see it as the fact that I have so much knowledge and resources available to me whenever I should need them. The advice I would give you is you will succeed with reading when you're able to set up a certain time. Like, it has to be part of a routine. So say, for instance, it's the first 15 minutes of your day. So if you have specific 15 minutes of your day, the very first 15 minutes that you're going to read, then you build that culture. You're going to be more likely to go into a routine that works. I find that routines work very well. So that is one of the things I would strongly advise. I see Anne is advising you to try audiobooks. I have found that for certain things, audiobooks work quite well. I'm able to go through them much faster. So for things where I don't need so much concentration, I can go for audiobooks. And what I do is that I'm also quite an avid walker. So I try to take a walk every day, and I can combine two things in one. I can take a walk and at the same time listen to a podcast, or listen to an audiobook. So you can find ways of blending those two. Anne, I see Anne is my colleague. Nice to meet you, Anne. Let me see. Yes, Othiambo talking about being a good reader and a good writer. Yes. For people like me who are not auditory learners and find reading boring, through visual and hands-on experience. Oh, okay. Yes. I mean, yes, again, we all have different learning profiles. Like, we will approach learning in different ways. You can, it depends on what skills you want to acquire, right? So if you need to do hands-on experience, then go where those hands-on experiences are available. So, like, for lack of a better example, like, you could, I don't know what your background is, but like, if you want to learn how to cook better, you don't need to read a book about it. You go to now I have forgotten it's a sister organization to Strathmore, where they have a very good culinary school. You go there, right? If you want to do photography, you can become an apprentice, get a mentor, get a trainer who will teach you hands-on. So that is also important for you to take on. Use some of those avenues, but ultimately you still need to access certain kinds of information. So you need to find that thing that works for you. Is it YouTube videos? Is it podcasts? Is it audiobooks, for instance? And so on and so forth. Yeah. Was that Alabaster? Okay, your background is engineering. Okay. Yes. So also you can take on, I don't know how it works in engineering, but I find that in many courses there's always something additional, an additional skill you can learn. I see this a lot with people who are in IT or in data, that there's always a new technology you can learn about. They go on YouTube, learn from experts, and then build on that. So I think that's something that you can do. Have I ever considered acting? Oh my God. Jude, I tried it in primary school. I don't think I did very well. Oh, Kibondeni. Yes, Kibondeni is a college that I was looking at. I don't think there's any other question. Is there something I have missed?
No, not really. But I think you commented on all of them. Perhaps also good. I wanted to say that buying books is good. Someone said there. Now setting a time to read them, like you said early. Personally, I read every morning. Whenever I wake up, that is the first thing. And usually, I don't even want people to give me a call too early. From 9 thereabout, I'm okay with calls. And
Yeah.
the other thing I learned is waiting time can be reading time. When you are waiting for somebody, you can be carrying a book to read when you're waiting, when you're instead of listening to radios, or if you are commuting using a matatu, for example, public means of transport, instead of listening to the nonsense that is usually aired, the Mukingangis, whatever, you can take that time to read. It's quite helpful. the other thing is, like you said, if it's become part of your culture, a routine, somewhat you will find yourself you keep doing it. You keep doing it.
Yeah.
Somebody is talking about audiobooks. Audiobooks are all over online, from YouTube to, if you just Google audiobooks, you'll get them. There is one I used to like called there is one, see, cloudaudio.com something, but there are very many. If you just Google audiobook, you Google the name of the book, then you look for audio, you will always get directed if they are available. Personally, I'm not very good with audiobooks. I listen to them, like you're saying, when I not so much concentrating. But being a slow reader, it's good for us to know ourselves. Being a slow reader, I find that most audio could be going too fast before I digest a point. I can read a paragraph several times, but this one will always keep going. So they don't work very well for me. Otherwise, learning also helps us to keep our brain active, keep our brain uh, alive. Otherwise, we start decaying. So I think it's a good thing to ensure that we are always learning. We are always growing, even if you are reading it for nothing, not just because you want to acquire a skill. So I think that is quite important. Otherwise, at this moment in time, we've run out of time. The only thing that can happen right now, Dr. Eda, I don't know what comment you want to make, but we'd like to call for somebody to give a vote of thanks, and then we move on. Dr. Eda, if it is burning, you can say it. But keep it short so that we go to the next stage before we run out of time. Go ahead.
I just wanted to express my gratitude and also make a comment. I have a friend who has just turned 99, Modhoni Likimani,
Oh,
and
yes.
she's still writing.
Wonderful scholar writer, yes.
Yeah, and my biggest take home is to read 15 minutes minimum per day.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful for that. And because if I read 15 minutes by the time I'm her age, si nitakuwa nimemaliza hizi vitabu nyuma yangu.
Na ukaongeza zingine.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was discouraged about when I was going to find time, and I'm kind of a perfectionist. So if I can't get that hour, so I'm very grateful for that.
So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I know that reading 15 minutes a day will do a lot of magic. I've been doing that for ages, and I know from experience. And I read a lot of things within that time. I think I take like an hour. I learned from somebody called Les Brown. He used to say, take 15 minutes, take 30 minutes a day. Yeah, he used to say, take 30 minutes a day. I take an hour because my dreams are bigger. So I said, okay, so why aren't my dreams bigger? So I also choose to be taking.
In fact, by the way, the comment I would make to that is that the 15 minutes is like a gateway drug.
Yeah.
When you start reading for 15 minutes, with time you realize you find a lot of pockets of 15 minutes here and there that you end up doing an hour and a half in a day. You'll be surprised at how much you're actually reading in the course of one day.
Yeah, so I opted for that because another author said just 15 minutes, miss a meal. I was telling my children the other day, miss a meal, but don't miss reading. So it's okay to miss a meal, but don't miss reading. Just read, because by the end of the day, you'll be much, much better, and you will be able to live in this day and age. Dr. Florence, would you mind giving a vote of thanks today on our behalf? This is your field of learning. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I am in a place where I can't quite get some good lighting to have my face. Let me see whether I can get it, but it means I will be standing. There.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Wow. I am really, really, really grateful, Kamau, for this talk. I am one of those people that buys books. My first trip to Singapore, when everybody was buying perfumes and so many things, my boxes were full of books. And people thought, what is wrong with you? But it's because there is just something that attracts me to books. And I'm so happy to hear what you have talked about. My mind was really running as you were speaking. And I was saying, oh, I have to get this thing to my children. They love to watch things, but they are not, I feel like they need to read a little more. My daughter-in-law reads, she's in a book club. But my boys don't enjoy reading. They want to watch, they want to do, other things. So I'm really grateful. What you have done today is taking us back to help us get out of this culture. There is a culture where somebody said that if you want to hide things from a Kenyan, hide it in a book. I think we need to get that out of the way, because you can read. I mean, reading is possible. And it is just a culture, the way we develop, the way you get into drugs, the way you said, it's a gateway drug, the 15 minutes. The way we get into addictions, even on social media and all this, is simply by reading, starting these 15 minutes. So thank you so much for this great talk. I am very excited. I want to sambaza this talk that we have had to my students, some of my students that I teach, some of the people that I talk to, some of the people I mentor, because I'm really encouraging them to get into the habit of reading and learning and getting information. So thank you for this talk today, and I really do hope that you can get into even schools and talk to our young people. Just get into that, get them to get into the habit of reading, and reading little, just little, and maybe writing little books also, so that they can, develop that habit and it grows with them. So thank you very much. Very enlightening, and very grateful to be here today. Thank you, Power Monday, for the opportunity that you give us to just sit here and learn something new every day. So God bless you, Kamau, and God increase you in every way. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Florence. That's great. Yeah, we must keep learning, and that's why we are here, that we may keep expanding our territories. Antonia, are you there? Would you be able to give some announcement before we close? Yeah. For people who don't know, this very coming Saturday, we are going to visit children, Christmas with children, and we are requesting for your donations. It's at Kawangware Precious Blood Children's Family. These are children reclaimed from the streets. The nuns there are taking care of them, and always depending on well-wishers to support them. It's Christmas time. Part of what we are called upon to do is charity. So you can donate something little, those who can, and I've put a pay bill number there, 247247, account number 439331. We are going to do that next Saturday. We will be there between 3 and 5, just 2 hours. So even if you are working on a Saturday and you can find yourself around Nairobi that day, we can be there together. We've been there a couple of times, and we just want to be consistent enough, at least twice a year. We go and visit them and share what we have. You could donate clothes, you could donate shoes, you could donate when you are budgeting for your other people. You can always throw something on this side. We help them, and we'll be very happy and grateful. We are going there on Saturday, so there is no any other meeting we have between now and Saturday. So this is the opportunity. You could send a bag of rice, which is about 2,000, a bag of beans, 2,000, or even if it is 200 bob, it will still go a long way. Otherwise, As I said at the beginning, we only have 2 sessions left, and that is next Monday and the other Monday. If you are here for the first time, we have a WhatsApp group. You can continue to connect with us. Through that, we connect, share, and grow together. And every Wednesday, we also share our businesses, our merchandise. You can post what you sell or what you do. So I had put a link up there through which you can fill a form and join the WhatsApp group. Otherwise, let me just put it again. For people who want to follow these recordings, we have a Power Monday YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to. I have also put a link there for the same, for Power Monday YouTube channel. Otherwise, it's just called Power Monday. You can get it from https it's YouTube/@Power Monday. I don't think there is anything I'm forgetting. Otherwise, I will request that somebody can volunteer to pray for us, and then we can